Ladies and gentlemen, let me warmly welcome you to broadcasting 11 of our series Introduction to Agni Yoga. Today we shall be treating the so-called occult anatomy. That means those parts of the human nature that are not visible. Even the Bible knows that there is a subtle body besides the physical one. There are also celestial bodies and bodies terrestrial. There is a natural body and there is a spiritual body. A striking symbol of our higher subtle constitution are the Russian dolls called matryoshkas. Like with human being, you perceive at first sight the outer shell only. But if you investigate deeper, you discover that there are other bodies concealed below the surface. Theosophy, in particular, has made of this area a confusing science with a variety of contradictory concepts and many technical terms, such as kama, manas, kama, rupa, pranic body, linga, sharira, etc. Sometimes it is not quite clear whether those who use these terms actually know what they are talking about. We, for us, adhere to the beautiful words of Helena Röhrig. The elimination of one of your undesirable habits will bring you more benefit than learning by heart all the existing systems of cosmogony. Therefore, we shall restrict ourselves to the teaching of those practical principles that you need to know for the better management of your daily life. Let us first briefly repeat what we have learned in prior broadcastings. The basic classification is twofold. Man has a visible, tangible, and an invisible spiritual nature. The next differentiation is threefold. Man consists of the transitory physical body, of the immortal individuality, the soul, and of the non-individual spirit, the divine spark which animates all matter. The soul uses the physical body as a tool in order to be able to appear on the lowest, the earthly plane. Today we shall see that there are other bodies which the soul requires in order to be able to act after the death of the physical body in higher, more spiritual worlds. Spirit without matter is nothing. Therefore, our eternal spiritual being demands for each higher and lower sphere it wishes to enter a suitable vehicle of its own, well adapted to the respective surroundings. To understand the occult constitution of man, we must return to the cycles of involution and evolution, which we have already discussed in broadcasting 4, the law of evolution. Do you remember this drawing? we had shown that our soul goes through 7 cycles, starting as a stone, proceeding further as a plant and an animal. Today through the 4th cycle as a human being, and then later to 3 more cycles. At the beginning, the spirit produces a rather primitive physical shell, a stone. This body is refined more and more in the further course of evolution. Today it has reached the form of a human body, which is quite advanced compared to a mineral. In the 2nd cycle, the monad, incarnated as a plant, develops beyond the mere physical body a simple emotional life. A mineral has virtually no feelings. At the level of the plants, they begin to stir. They continue to develop further and further, up to the present rather differentiated human emotions. We can say that in the 2nd cycle, the soul forms a body of feelings. In the 3rd, the animal cycle, physical body and body of feelings have reached an even higher level. Here, the monad produces as a next step the instinct, the first primitive form of knowledge. An animal already knows a lot. For example, how to build a nest or to protect itself from enemies. We can say that a body of instincts is being formed. Here is the seat of the animal passions. Those are not bad in themselves, but very well have their evolutionary justification. On the level of the mobile animals, they were necessary, unlike with the immobile plants, in order to ensure survival and reproduction. Every diamond, every crystal, every plant and star has its own individual soul, besides man and animal, and there is a hierarchy of souls, from the lowest forms of matter up to the world soul. In today's 4th, the human cycle, physical body, body of feelings and body of instincts have developed still further. Now, as a next step is added the intellect. The soul brings forth a body of thoughts. We have before us the 5th cycle, in which we shall train a principle called manas. This stands for wisdom and knowledge in the form of heart knowledge that goes beyond the intellectual reason. In the 6th cycle, the principle of buddhi will be developed, shortly defined with love and intuition. The 7th cycle, deals with Atma, the divine will, or the pure spirituality. However, those are so far away from us that we cannot yet form an accurate image of them. Therefore, we can speak of a sevenfold constitution of man. As within the Matrushka, under the visible shell of the physical body, there are hidden 6 further, more subtle bodies. The 3 bodies of feelings, of instincts, and of thoughts form, together with the physical body, the so-called lower tetrad. These bodies are all mortal. They will be dissolved one day just like the physical body, and will have to be rebuilt upon further incarnations. The 3 bodies of feelings, of instincts, and of thoughts are called in Agni Yoga collectively the subtle body. Also because it is almost impossible to clearly separate between feelings, instincts, and thoughts. The so-called higher triad, Manas, Buddhi, Atma, however, are immortal bodies. They are referred to in Agni Yoga collectively as the fiery body. In the Occidental Christian terminology, this is the soul, our eternal individuality. All this turns from grey theory into living practice once you realize you, your true higher self, must learn to control and to guide your body of feelings, your body of instincts, and your body of thoughts, and to use them as a tool in the same way as the physical body. We shall go into the details in later broadcasting, but we can say already here, you should not identify yourself, neither with your physical body, nor with your feelings, your instincts, or your thoughts. Your consciousness should rest above these bodies in your higher self. From there, you should guide the work of these vehicles. In particular, you have to control from there which feelings, instincts, and thoughts you allow to express themselves and which not. It is not you, your true, eternal ego, that feels, senses a passion or thinks. It is your lower perishable self, your subtle body, that stills. You are neither your physical body nor your subtle body. You are a spiritual being, an immortal soul. This, your true self, must decide how far you want to pursue the aspirations of your perishable nature. All teachings repeat about the burden of the flesh in order to direct attention to the superiority of the spirit. We stand today, as discussed in Broadcasting 4, in the 5th race of the 4th round of the 4th cycle. In the last, the 4th race on the continent of Atlantis, the development of the intellect, the body of thoughts, has reached its peak. Today, in the 5th race, we already must begin to develop the 5th principle, manas, wisdom, that is the first particle of our immortal being. This is consistent with the earlier mentioned finding that the potential of our physical body is somewhat exhausted, and that now the development of our spiritual being is part of the curriculum. That is further consistent with the fact that we have left the deepest point of the overall cycle behind us, thus have completed the involution of the spirit into matter, and are now at the beginning of the evolution of the spirit. We had already said in the last broadcasting, the subtle world which the soul enters after the death of the body consists of many different levels and layers that are more and more spiritual and finer with increasing altitude. Agni Yoga speaks first in general of the subtle world. This is, as the physical level, the earth, perishable. Here the soul appears with the three invisible shells of the lower tetrad, with the subtle body. Above the subtle world there is the so-called fiery world, the highest imperishable world of the pure spirit. Until there, only those beings can penetrate who have sufficiently developed the three immortal bodies of the higher triad, the fiery body, the soul. The goal of life is to find oneself in the fiery world with all the acquisitions of consciousness. Furthermore, Agni Yoga speaks of the astral world. These are the lower layers of the subtle world near to the earth. We had already said in the last broadcasting that the circumstances there are even more terrible than on earth. Those souls get there whose subtle bodies are still at a lower animal level, and which are still subject to earthly desires and passions. Such lower subtle bodies are also called astral bodies. They drive around in the vicinity of the earth, of the objects of their desire. They try to make use of unprotected incarnated human beings in order to continue to indulge in their desire, as far as this is possible for a being which is not physically incarnated. The spirit attached to earth clothes itself in the astral body, which creates for him the illusion of earth here in the hearth of cravings and remorse. But the spirit which speeds out in upward striving only can avoid the astral plane, because the astral body is but superfluous rubbish. As also already discussed, the soul enters, after the death of the physical body, that sphere of the spiritual world which corresponds to the level of its development. In relation to the bodies, that means to a higher level of the subtle world, only that soul can advance that has formed already on earth a fine, pure, spiritualized, subtle body. You have to imagine it like this. A little developed subtle body has a lower vibration. It is unable to exist on a higher, more spiritual level with higher vibrations. It would not endure the spiritual fire there. It would burn up. Touch me not. This is how Jesus warned Mary Magdalene when he met her in his subtle body after his death. She would have been reduced to ashes if she had touched a being with a higher vibration.